The chandelier flickered above the marble foyer as Mason stood silently by the study doors, the sound of his own heartbeat steady, controlled. Just like his expression. He could hear the Liu sisters laughing in the next room, talking about him like he was a prop in their scripted show. Olivia's voice, sweet and soaked in arrogance, rose above the others. Mason's always followed me around like a dog. I don't even need to try. On his 21st birthday, he'll come crawling. He didn't blink, not anymore. Last time, he did crawl. He gave her everything, his love, his future, even his life. And what did she give in return? A slow, humiliating death in the Liu family's basement, starving while they celebrated above. That life was gone. He had returned. Reborn with the memories of every insult, every betrayal, every moment he begged her to look at him, and she turned instead to Logan, the gardener's son with fake coughs and real poison. This time, he didn't come back to plead. Mason pushed open the study door. Uncle Liu looked up from his desk, startled at first, then softened. "You came early." "I wanted to talk to you directly," Mason said. His tone was flat, controlled, so different from the desperate boy this family remembered. The old man nodded. "As you know, your birthday's approaching. The Liu family tradition remains. You'll choose one of my daughters to marry, and she will inherit everything." Mason didn't hesitate. "That's why I came." Behind him, the door creaked. He didn't need to turn, he knew the sisters were there. Olivia in the center, her smile full of confidence. Alicia poised with her cold elegance, Maria pretending not to care, and Emma, the one they all ignored, stood quietly at the back, her head slightly lowered. "You're early," Olivia said with a smirk. "Couldn't wait to beg Dad to give you a head start on the fortune." He looked at her, not through at her. And for the first time in 2 lives, he felt nothing. "I'm not here to beg." Olivia tilted her head, amused. "Sure, then let me guess, you came to finally ask me to marry you?" A pause. Mason turned toward Uncle Liu. "I'm ready to make my choice." The air shifted, Olivia's smile widened, certain it was her. Maria leaned forward. Alicia arched a brow. But Mason's gaze didn't stop on any of them. It drifted past them, to the girl who had taken a half-step back as if she knew this wasn't her moment. But it was. "Emma," Mason said calmly, his voice slicing through the room. Olivia laughed, waiting for the joke to end. It didn't. "You're joking," she snapped. Mason's eyes didn't leave Emma's. "No, I've made my decision. I won't be choosing any of you." He took a breath. The next words carried the weight of 2 lives, of starvation and betrayal and clarity. "My choice is Emma." In his first life, Mason believed love was earned through sacrifice. He was 17 when the Liu family first brought up marriage. Olivia had laughed when she heard the old man's will, her dark eyes gleaming with mockery. "If you want the Liu fortune, you'll have to marry Mason," they'd told her. She had scoffed in private, but agreed in public. Mason thought it was love. She married him with a smile on her lips and betrayal in her heart. The ink hadn't even dried on their marriage certificate before she was slipping out at night, barefoot, into the garden. Mason had seen it with his own eyes. Olivia nestled on the bench with Logan, whispering into his ear, her fingers gently brushing the back of his hand. She looked at Logan like Mason had never been looked at. But he still forgave her. He convinced himself it was just old friendship, just a phase. She'd come around, she had to, because he'd given up everything for her. He sold the only property his parents left him, used the money to buy her paintings gallery space, even lied to Uncle Liu about her qualifications to get her accepted into the National Fine Arts program. He thought if he loved her hard enough, she'd finally love him back. Instead, she dragged him into the darkness. Logan wasn't just a gardener's son, he was a viper dressed in linen. He played the victim to perfection, fainting conveniently, stammering in just the right places, showing up bruised and telling the sisters that Mason yelled at him again, while Olivia stood silently beside him, lips trembling. The Liu sisters, Alicia with her business degree, Maria with her fake smile and theater training, took Logan's side without hesitation. "Mason's changed," Alicia had whispered one night. "Maybe we gave him too much power." "He scares me now," Maria added with a pout, pretending to be fragile. Soon, Mason wasn't just the unwanted husband. He was the villain in their little fairy tale. They started locking doors behind him. His bedroom was moved to the guest wing, then the maid stopped speaking to him. His meals became irregular, then non-existent. Aunt Liu stopped looking him in the eye. Uncle Liu was always away on business. And Olivia, she barely acknowledged him. She walked around the estate on Logan's arm as if Mason didn't exist, until one night he didn't. It began with a tray of food that never came, then the lights in the guest wing went out, the door wouldn't open. Days passed, the hunger clawed at him like wild dogs in his gut. He screamed, cried, pounded the walls, nothing. On the 8th day, Olivia opened the door. She wore pearls, her lipstick was the same shade as blood. "Why?" he croaked. She tilted her head. "You were in the way." That was the last thing he remembered before darkness took him. When Mason opened his eyes again, he was 17. Again. Same family, same mansion, same Olivia, still alive, still beautiful, still wicked. But this time, he wasn't the same. He watched everything play out again, but from a distance. Logan showed up again, coughing into a handkerchief for sympathy. Olivia gave him her scarf. Maria gifted him vitamins. Alicia smiled at him like he was some rare bird. Mason said nothing. He studied their movements, remembered the lies they told, the gifts they gave before stabbing him in the back. He took notes. By the time he turned 21 again, Uncle Liu sat him down in the same study. "You've grown, Mason. You've always been a part of this family. My daughters, they'll inherit the Liu name. But the fortune? That will go to the one who marries you." Mason smiled politely. "I understand." In the hall outside the study, the sisters were waiting. Olivia stood at the front, her arms crossed, smiling like a queen. "You've come early again," she said smoothly. "Nervous?" "Not at all." She moved closer, eyes gleaming. "Don't worry, you'll get what you want. I'll accept the marriage proposal, as long as we each live our own lives after marriage. You stay out of mine, I'll stay out of yours. Deal?" He didn't answer. Maria giggled. "Big sister, he's stunned. He's always had a crush on you. I bet he can't believe you're agreeing so easily." Alicia nodded thoughtfully. "Just make sure he doesn't get clingy. A man raised by another family never really knows his place." Mason's gaze didn't flicker. He walked into the living room, where Uncle and Aunt Lou had gathered the family to begin birthday preparations. "We'll have the banquet on Sunday," Uncle Lou said, "and we'll announce your engagement that night. Olivia, you're fine with that?" "Of course," she said without hesitation, already turning to Mason. "I hope you've prepared a proper ring." Mason stood up slowly, calm. "Actually, I already have someone I like." The room fell silent. Alicia blinked. "What?" Maria's face stiffened. "Is this a joke?" Olivia's lips parted, the smile dying on them. "You must be joking. You think I'd believe you like someone like her?" Mason didn't look at her. He didn't need her to believe it. He just needed her to know, this time, she wasn't getting away with anything. The marble floor gleamed beneath Mason's feet as he stepped into the banquet hall. A giant banner hung above, "Happy 21st Birthday, Mason." The room sparkled with warm gold lighting, but the atmosphere was cold, polite, empty. He scanned the crowd, dozens of guests, distant relatives, business partners. None of them were here for him, not really. Across the room, Olivia stood next to Logan, a hand lightly brushing his sleeve. Maria adjusted his collar like he was a porcelain doll, while Alicia leaned in to whisper something near his ear. Logan gave a weak cough and winced dramatically. The three sisters immediately looked worried. Mason poured himself a glass of water and watched them. The sisters hadn't even approached him once since the party started. He didn't mind. He wasn't here to be loved, he was here to be seen. An hour passed. The birthday cake arrived, 4 tiers high, decorated with gold sugar roses and silver fondant leaves. It was a masterpiece, except there was no candle. No "Happy Birthday, Mason" on the top. It was generic. Like no one had bothered to customize it. Uncle Liu was busy greeting guests. Aunt Liu looked overwhelmed. The sisters remained glued to Logan's side. Not a single one of them had acknowledged Mason's birthday directly. Still, he waited. Until Alicia finally approached him with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We didn't know what to get you this year. You're hard to shop for." She pulled a black card from her clutch and handed it to him. "Just buy something you want." He took it without emotion. "Thanks." Maria joined them next, a bit sheepish. I was going to get you something, I swear, but I've been so busy on set lately. He nodded again. I understand. From behind them, Olivia approached at last, arms crossed, chin slightly lifted. I was going to gift you a limited edition painting, but I figured it's better if you pick your own gift. You're picky after all. Mason tucked the black card into his coat pocket and gave her a look that made her pause. I don't need anything from any of you. Maria blinked. What do you mean? He turned his back on them. Across the hall, Emma stood near the staff exit, holding something small and neatly wrapped. When their eyes met, she flinched and looked down, then quietly placed the gift on a side table and slipped out. No one noticed, except Mason. After the guests dispersed, Mason returned to the quiet hallway outside his old room. Or rather, what used to be his room. He paused outside the door. Laughter came from inside. He pushed it open and saw Logan lying on the bed, a damp cloth on his head, Maria feeding him fruit, Alicia handing him vitamins, and Olivia scolding the maid to adjust the lighting. Logan sat up weakly. I just got a little dizzy. You should rest, Maria said sweetly. I'll make you soup, Alicia offered. You're worrying us, Olivia added. Then her eyes flicked to Mason standing in the doorway. Her smile returned, smug. Need something? He stared at them blankly. This used to be my room. Maria gave a fake laugh. Logan, needed a quiet place, and you weren't using it. Without a word, Mason stepped back and closed the door. Later that night, he opened the drawer in his current room, the tiny spare guest room now assigned to him. Inside were years of things the sisters had given him, old ties, cufflinks, handmade cards, childhood drawings, photos with them labeled in glitter pen, our favorite brother. A wooden toy car Maria once bought him. A pin from Alicia's first company launch. Olivia's sketch of him in her early style, still clumsy but full of pride. He stared at them for a long moment, then he carried them all to the fireplace downstairs. No one stopped him as he struck the match. The wood caught quickly, paper curled, ink faded. As the flames grew, Olivia entered the room with Logan trailing behind her. What the hell are you doing? She asked, storming over. Maria and Alicia followed, drawn by the smoke. Their eyes widened when they saw the pile of memories turning to ash. Mason, those are trash, he interrupted. Olivia stepped closer. Are you seriously burning the things we gave you? Yes. Maria tried to grab one of the cards still half burnt. You're overreacting. He didn't even look at her. These things, Mason said, voice low and steady, belong to my past. He stared into the fire, expression unreadable, then he turned to them, eyes sharper than they'd ever seen. The future I want is no longer tied to you. Mason leaned against the balcony railing, the cold wind rushing over his face like waves trying to wash away the weight pressed into his bones. Below, the Liu estate was lit with golden lights, chatter and soft music from another garden party spilling out like a performance just for show. He didn't belong to that show anymore. He closed his eyes. In the darkness behind his lids, the memories came flooding back. The damp basement, the bowl of untouched rice moldy by day 3, the metal door that refused to open. His own voice screaming until it went hoarse, begging for a reason, for anything, that would make Olivia come down and tell him it was just a mistake. But she never did. She sent Logan to tell him the Liu family was busy, then sent no one at all. He had collapsed in that dark room with his hand gripping a wedding photo, one where she hadn't even smiled. His stomach twisted. Even now, when the chefs prepared full-course meals daily, he barely ate. Hunger had become a habit. He sometimes forgot how to feel full. His phone buzzed softly in his pocket. He pulled it out. Emma, 7:14 p.m. Hey, I know your birthday party probably didn't go as you hoped. I designed something for you. It's not much, just a suit I had custom tailored. You might not like the color, but I hope it fits. Attached was a photo of a sleek, dark charcoal 3-piece suit laid out neatly on his bed. It wasn't flashy, no gold, no embroidery, but the inside lining was embroidered with a tiny phrase in gold thread, "Walk your own road." Mason stared at it for a long moment, jaw tight, then typed. Mason, 7:16 p.m. Thank you. He paused, then added, it fits perfectly. He didn't send anything else, but for the first time that week, something in his chest ached in a way that wasn't born of rage. Later that evening, Olivia was at the center of the gathering again, laughing with Logan at her side. Her Lloyd stick was bold, her confidence louder. She spotted Mason passing through the garden. "Mason," she called out loudly, "still pretending you're not going to marry me?" Some guests looked over. "Everyone knows you're just trying to get attention. You've been in love with me since you were 16. You think someone like her," she smirked, not even saying Emma's name, "can replace me?" Mason stopped, looked at her, then looked away. He said nothing. But inside, the silence roared. That night, sleep didn't come, his stomach cramped again from forgetting to eat. At dawn, he stumbled into the hallway, dizzy, a sharp pain ran through his gut, he gritted his teeth, gripping the wall. By the time the maid found him, Mason was already collapsed on the cold tiles. The next thing he saw was a white ceiling. Hospital lights. A soft voice said, "He's waking up." Uncle Liu was by his side. Aunt Liu hovered nearby, eyes red. "Mason, how could you not eat again?" she scolded, voice trembling. "This isn't just stress. The doctor said your stomach lining is damaged. Are you trying to kill yourself?" He shifted slightly, throat dry. "I forgot." "Forgot?" Uncle Liu's voice was sharp. "You were found unconscious in our own home. You didn't forget, you gave up on yourself. Why?" Mason couldn't answer that. Because the truth was ugly. The truth was he didn't think he mattered, not anymore, not to them, not to anyone, except maybe one person. A nurse entered. "Sir, we have something to show you." In the hallway, the security team waited. They'd reviewed the footage from the night of the collapse. The screen played back a chilling moment, Aunt Wu walking past the kitchen, pouring something from a small bottle into Mason's soup pot. Moments later, Logan stepped into the kitchen, looked around, and smiled, approvingly. Mason stared at the screen, jaw tightening. Uncle Liu's face darkened. "I gave that woman 20 years of my trust. She betrayed more than just you," Mason said coldly. Aunt Liu grabbed his hand, shaking. "Mason, I'm so sorry." He nodded once, then turned to the head of security. "Fire them both, and make sure Logan never steps into the Liu residence again." "Yes, sir." Back in his hospital room, Mason sat up slowly. A new message came through. "Emma, 8:41 a.m. The tailor said you looked perfect in the suit." His fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then typed. "I wasn't perfect, but I'll try to be, for the one person who stayed." A pause, then another message. "Thank you, Emma." When Olivia came to visit hours later, he didn't let her pass the threshold. "I heard what happened," she said, folding her arms. "It was just food poisoning, right?" He said nothing. "You're overreacting. Logan would never." He turned to her slowly, gaze flat. "I'm done pretending." She narrowed her eyes. "Pretending what?" "That you ever cared, that you ever saw me as anything more than a tool." Olivia scoffed. "You think Emma loves you? That sick little charity case?" Mason stood. His voice didn't rise, but it silenced the entire hallway. "This time, I'll protect the one who truly stayed." Olivia flinched. He closed the door on her face. The night air was heavy with fragrance, gardenias, lilacs, the faint smoke of candles, and the Liu estate had never looked more dazzling. Tonight was Mason's 26th birthday, and the entire courtyard had been transformed into a spectacle of lights, strings of pastel golds, blush rose centerpieces, and soft classical music echoing under the stars. But Mason wasn't focused on the celebration. He stared at the message that had just landed on his private device, one encrypted, one only the old Mason would have used. Encrypted message, 7:09 p.m. Confirmed, Olivia, Maria, Alicia, and Logan, all four retain past life memory. Initiation of rebirth. Protocol matches your timeline. You are not the only one who returned. Mason's fingers clenched around the phone. So it was true. They remembered everything too. Their lies, their manipulation, their betrayal. And still, they had chosen to try again. Not to change, but to win. He didn't even flinch when Olivia appeared behind him moments later, her perfume trailing like smoke from a fire already burned. "You've been avoiding me," she said, placing a hand lightly on his arm. "But I understand now." He turned to face her, his expression unreadable. You remember too, don't you? She whispered, her lips just inches from his. You remembered the pain, the hurt, but also, us. That connection. There was no us, Olivia. She flinched, but quickly caught herself with a soft smile. You think that girl loves you, Emma? She didn't even have the courage to speak to you back then. She did more than speak. The words sliced through her like cold steel. She was the only one who reached for me when the door was locked. You were the one who threw the key away. Mason. Olivia's voice trembled, her mask cracking. I can be better. I am better. I've changed. No, he said. You just came back with a head start, but you're still the same. From behind the curtain, soft music began playing. It wasn't a birthday tune, it was a wedding melody. A murmur swept through the guests as Mason walked forward to the center of the stage, under the spotlight. Emma stood at the far end, wearing a soft cream dress, hair tied back with delicate peach ribbon, no makeup, just that quiet strength in her eyes. She looked out of place, almost too humble to belong on the same pedestal. But tonight, she was everything. Mason stood beside her, looked at the crowd, then took a breath. I never got to say this in my last life, he began, voice clear. Because I died before I knew who truly stood by me. The guests stilled. Olivia stepped forward, panic rising. What are you doing? Lou Mother reached out and grabbed Olivia's wrist. Don't embarrass yourself. Mother. But the grip tightened. And on stage, Mason turned to Emma and pulled out a velvet box. In a life where everyone left me in darkness, Mason said, opening it to reveal a ring carved from the Liu family heirloom sapphire, you were the only one who found a light and shared it with me. Emma's breath caught, her lips trembled. I may have been born again, Mason continued, but the one person who made me want to live again is you. The crowd gasped as he lowered to one knee. Emma, will you marry me? Emma didn't speak right away, her eyes shimmered and her lips parted. But instead of a simple yes, she whispered something more. I remembered you before I even knew your name, she said softly. Even as children, when you shared your umbrella in the rain. When you gave your scarf to Alicia, even though you were the one freezing. I always watched you, I always knew you were good. Her hand trembled as she took the ring. I just never had the courage to reach out, until that night. When I heard you were locked away, I tried to help. I snuck water through the cracks in the door. I left the light on even though Aunt Wu said not to, and when they found me. She stopped, voice choking. I'm sorry I couldn't save you. Mason stood, slipping the ring onto her finger. You did save me. He turned then, looking at the crowd, at Olivia, who was frozen, tears gathering but unable to fall. She saved me after you buried me. A silence swept the entire estate. Olivia stumbled back. Logan's expression twisted in fury. The sisters stood motionless. Then, from the top of the stairs, Liu father stepped down. His face was solemn, dressed in ceremonial silk, flanked by two family aides. In light of this declaration, he began, and after careful review of both past and present decisions, I hereby transfer the Liu family inheritance, a louder murmur broke out, to Mason and his future wife, Emma. He walked forward, placing a scroll in Mason's hands. May you rebuild this family in the image it was meant to be, with loyalty and love. Olivia gasped, her mouth hanging open. Maria stepped back, eyes wide. Alicia turned away completely. Logan stormed off. Emma clutched the scroll with trembling fingers. Mason looked around once more. None of you believed I'd walk away, he said quietly. But I didn't walk away. His voice sharpened. I rose. The bells rang low and melodic over the Liu estate, every chime echoing through the ancestral hall like the start of something sacred. Red silk banners fluttered in the golden dusk, embroidered dragons and phoenixes dancing with the wind, and 1,000 lotus lanterns floated gently across the reflecting pool below the ceremonial bridge. Inside the main courtyard, guests had gathered in formal attire, hushed with anticipation. Mason stood at the altar, dressed in a tailored black and ivory ceremonial robe, trimmed with Liu jade. At his side, Emma appeared like a dream. Her gown was simple, embroidered with gardenias and phoenix feathers, her hair pinned with old pearl combs from Liu mother's dowry. Her hand rested gently in Mason's. Then, the doors banged open. Olivia stood in the entrance, wearing white, A western bridal gown, cut low and dramatic, sequins catching the candlelight like shattered glass. Her hair was styled in elaborate curls, veil thrown back, eyes rimmed with dark mascara, like smudged war paint. The crowd turned in stunned silence. Mason's jaw locked. Emma's fingers twitched in his grasp. "I object," Olivia said. Her voice rang out, clear as glass. "I object to this farce of a wedding, and I demand to speak." The elders gasped. Lou Father's brow tightened. "You're not on the registry," he said coldly. "I'm blood," Olivia snapped. "And Mason, he was mine first." Emma said nothing. Mason stepped slightly in front of her. "Leave," he said calmly. "You've done enough." But Olivia only smiled, lifting her skirt slightly as she walked up the aisle. "Tell them, Mason," she said, eyes glinting. "Tell them you still remember. Our first kiss, the bracelet I gave you, the way I comforted you when they threw you in the basement." Mason didn't speak. Instead, Emma quietly placed her hand on his shoulder. "She's not here for love." "You think you're better than me?" Olivia hissed. "You were nothing, just a scared little orphan boy they took in, and I was the one who gave you status. You used me," Mason cut in. "And this, coming here in that dress, threatening Emma, that only proves it." "Threaten her?" Olivia laughed. "You think I'd—" She moved suddenly, her hand shot out, fast, glittering, something sharp gripped in her palm. Emma gasped. Mason spun. Glass. A jagged shard from the champagne tower, clutched in Olivia's trembling hand. Mason shielded Emma with his body. The glass sliced across his arm as Olivia lunged, catching flesh and fabric both. Blood soaked into his sleeve. The crowd surged forward, gasps, screams. Lou Father shouted for the guards, but Mason didn't cry out. He just stood, holding Emma tighter behind him. Then another voice rang out. "Olivia!" "Logan!" He strode forward, hair slicked, dressed in silver and navy, his expression almost triumphant. "Enough," he said, smiling thinly. "You've lost him." Olivia panted, hand still shaking. Logan stepped forward and dropped to one knee. "Then choose me," he said. "I always knew you were dangerous, that you had ambition. That's what I love about you." He pulled out a diamond ring. "Marry me, Olivia." Silence. Then, slap. Olivia's hand cracked across his cheek. "You disgusting parasite," she snapped. "You think I want you? You followed me like a dog through 2 lives." Logan's face twisted with humiliation as he staggered back. "You think this was ever about love?" Olivia shouted, looking around. This was about the Liu family inheritance. I deserved it. I still do." Her voice grew shrill. "You all just sat and watched while Mason got handed my legacy." Emma stepped forward then, her voice soft but firm. "No, Olivia," she said. "You were given every chance, and you destroyed every one." She turned to the crowd. "I didn't plan to speak today, but I can't let this continue." She pulled a file from her sleeve, handed it to Lou Father's assistant. "These are Alicia's records, 3 years of academic fraud, paid proxies, the university confirmed it 2 weeks ago." Murmurs broke out. "And Maria," Emma continued. "She's been hiding her debt. She borrowed the Liu family name to run a gambling circle. The proof is on page 5. Olivia's lips curled. "Lies." "And you," Emma finished. "Your entire so-called design career? I tracked the AI tool you used. Every one of your award-winning pieces was auto-generated from pre-built templates. I ran plagiarism checks, 96% match." Olivia's mouth opened. No sound came out. "You don't love Mason," Emma said quietly. "You only love being seen with him." Lou Father stood up, veins visible across his neck. He walked straight to Olivia, raised his hand. Slap. The sound cracked through the courtyard. "You shame this family," Lou Father said. He turned to the guards. "Escort her out. Do not let her return without my summons." "No, wait, Father!" Olivia screamed, heels dragging on the stone tiles as 2 guards grabbed her arms. "I was the heir. This was mine. You'll regret this. I swear, you'll—" The doors slammed behind her. Silence fell again, then Mason turned Ned slowly to Emma. His arm still bled, but he didn't seem to care. The priest hesitated, unsure whether to continue, but Mason took Emma's hand again. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "You didn't deserve to be dragged into this." Emma squeezed his fingers. "We walk forward together. That's all that matters now." The priest, gently nodding, resumed the ceremony. At the altar, as the final rites were read, the elder council stood behind them in recognition, and with one final gesture, Liu father himself placed the ceremonial jade seal, the mark of inheritance, into Mason's hands. The family heirloom was now his. And hers. Mason slipped the ring onto Emma's finger. His hand trembled just slightly, from pain or emotion, no one could tell. Then he whispered, "I'll only protect her. For the rest of my life." 5 months later. The Liu Group Tower stood tall against the Shanghai skyline, its obsidian glass catching the golden afternoon sun. Inside, the atmosphere was calm but charged, like something monumental was always just beneath the surface. At the top floor, Mason stood by the panoramic window, dressed in a slate-gray suit with cufflinks engraved with the Liu crest. His presence radiated authority, confidence, and something even stronger, peace. Behind him, the soft rustling of papers stopped. "Meeting summary's been sent to your inbox," said Charles, his assistant. "And the Japan merger's ready for approval." Mason nodded once. "Have legal vet it again. Emma's sleeping, and I don't want calls today." Charles smiled faintly and bowed out. In the adjacent suite, the lights were dimmed, and warm-toned blinds filtered the sunlight into soft honeyed rays. Emma sat on the couch, her legs tucked under a quilt, one hand resting on her swollen belly. 5 months along now. Her features had softened. She wore no makeup, just a loose sweater and linen pants, but to Mason, she'd never looked more beautiful. When he entered, her eyes lit up. "Done conquering the world?" Mason walked over, knelt by her side, and pressed his forehead gently against her stomach. "Almost," he murmured. "One empire at a time." She giggled softly, threading her fingers through his hair. "I swear this baby kicks harder every day." "He'll be strong," Mason whispered. "Like his mother." Justice comes full circle. Alicia Liu had tried to act fast once Mason took control. Citing her contribution to the Liu bloodline, she attempted to divide the assets between the sisters, releasing falsified records of stock distributions, even tampering with hospital data to claim Mason had fabricated the will. What she hadn't anticipated was the digital trail. Mason's team unearthed a secret offshore lab tied to Alicia's name, where illegal gene editing research was being conducted under the guise of fertility trials. Women had died there, quietly, without media coverage. Mason didn't make it quiet. Within a week, Alicia was arrested at her private villa in Phuket. Footage of her screaming, "I'm innocent, you can't do this to me," went viral across China's financial news circuits. She was sentenced to 20 years. Maria followed next. Unlike Alicia, Maria tried the subtle route, leaking rumors, framing Mason for embezzlement, whispering through fake accounts about a cover-up in the Liu inheritance trial. But the documents she forged were traced, easily. Her mistake? Trying to plant them in Emma's personal bag at a prenatal gala. The footage was crisp, public, and damning. Maria was blacklisted from all major publications and PR firms, her brand endorsements pulled out within 24 hours. By the end of the week, no one would hire her, not even for free modeling gigs. She vanished from society. And Olivia, no one knew exactly when she cracked. Some said it was when she saw Mason and Emma on the cover of Elite Asia, smiling, hands gently resting over Emma's belly. Others said it was the quiet. The invitations that never came. The empire she'd plotted for, gone. She was first seen wandering near the old Liu estate gates barefoot, muttering to herself. A week later, she was spotted sitting in front of Mason's old basement, her lipstick smudged, eyes vacant, singing an old nursery rhyme Emma used to hum. And then, one rainy afternoon, Mason found her. She stood in the middle of the road, soaked, shivering. "Mason," she whispered. He didn't speak. Olivia took a step forward, eyes hollow, mouth trembling. "I remember everything." "I know," Mason replied quietly. "I killed you," she said, voice cracking. "In the last life, I watched them starve you. I said nothing. I smiled when they locked you away." Mason didn't flinch. "I remember," he said again. Her knees buckled, she fell to the ground. "Say something, please." But Mason just looked at her one last time, and walked away. Later that day, she wandered again into the road, eyes searching the sky, murmuring Mason's name. The car didn't stop in time. They buried her quietly, No public funeral, just a gravestone inscribed with her name and nothing else. A private confession. That night, Emma sat beside Mason on their rooftop, stars glowing above the city's haze. Her head rested on his shoulder as she watched the skyline. He handed her a warm cup of chrysanthemum tea. "Can I tell you something?" she asked softly. "Always." She hesitated, then smiled. "I knew you liked Sophia, in the past." Mason blinked. He turned to look at her, but her expression remained gentle. Emma shrugged. "I saw it in your eyes when she'd smile at you. You were young, it was pure, and I never said anything because I knew." "Knew what?" Emma looked at him, her eyes warm and full of light. "That if I waited, if I just stayed, you'd look at me the same way one day." Mason was quiet for a long moment, then he took her hand and pressed it to his chest. "I never forgot Sophia," he admitted. "But the girl I stayed alive for in that basement, the one who slipped a steamed bun through the cracks when no one else cared." He looked into Emma's eyes. "That girl was you." Emma's eyes shimmered. Mason kissed her hand. "I've always known it was you." She leaned in closer, resting her forehead against his. "Then it was worth it," she whispered. Final scene. At the Liu Spring Banquet, the hall shimmered wayo, its soft florals and woven banners. It wasn't just a celebration of wealth this year, it was a celebration of survival, of rebirth. Mason stood before the crowd, holding Emma's hand. Their child would be born soon. He looked over at the rows of investors, allies, old enemies now humbled, and then he turned to her. "To those who betrayed us," Mason said, voice firm, "we offer no vengeance. To those who stood beside us." He looked at Emma, and her hand gripped his tighter. "We offer everything." The crowd applauded. Fireworks bloomed in the sky. Later, as the night quieted and they stood beneath a cherry blossom tree, Mason whispered, "This time, I loved the right person. And I never looked back." Emma smiled, her hand resting gently over his heart. And the past, at last, was buried. Forever. End quote. This time, I loved the right person, and I never looked back. Mason Liu.